Hello there, cosmonauts! Welcome back to Kerbal Space Program and NovaStar International. We are here in mission control with a new active contract to escape the atmosphere. We'll get 15 science for completing this, a whole chunk of change, and 95 prestige points as well, which is fantastic. We should get a good boost from that, in fact. If you also remember from the last episode, we still haven't managed to test the radial decoupler in flight yet, and we will get some decent rewards from that as well. So we're going to try and tweak our vessels slightly so that we can achieve both of these contracts in one. We'll go into the VAB. And we'll load up our old NovaStar 5, which is what we used last time to set a new altitude record, I believe. Now, what I've done here previously is increase the amount of solid fuel in these engines. If you remember, we were about 100 on the solid fuel before. We're going to need a little extra boost to, first of all, escape the atmosphere, but we're also going to need a little bit more fuel in these guys so that we can reach optimal altitude and speed when testing these radial decouplers. So hopefully, with this new NovaStar 5, we'll be able to achieve both of our contracts, and well, everything's going to be good in the hood if we manage to do that. Not to mention the huge amount of science we will get from it as well. So let's put our vessel onto the launch pad. Good old Jebediah sitting in here, and that reminds me, I've still not switched him out yet, but hey, that doesn't matter too much. Let's bring up our contract window here, and the first one we want to complete is the radial decoupler, which means we need to be at an altitude of 2,300 meters and at 270 meters per second in speed. So we're going to go all out. We're going to put our engine up to full and reach that target speed, and then throttle down slightly, and then eject these guys on the side. So let's just go for it, and fingers crossed, everything's gonna be all good. Ooh, leaning over to the left a little bit there. Let's slow down as we approach that 270 meters per second. We don't want to be going too fast here, and Jebediah does not seem to be able to keep this thing level. What is going on? I don't know. Oh my goodness me. Wow. Wow. Jebediah unable to pilot this thing by the looks of things. Well, that's a shame. I wonder if we're actually going to be able to make it up now to reach the outer atmosphere. We will see. It will be a testament to our piloting skills, and I have no idea why that happened. Didn't seem like we had a fuel imbalance or anything like that, so I am at a loss as to what exactly happened there. But hopefully we'll be able to make it anyway. Of course, a few spins around. Jebediah not dying from the G-force, though he does look like he's certainly, you know, losing it a little bit in the cockpit there. But we should still be able to make it. Hopefully. I mean, I am hopeful here. Obviously, we got a little bit of a boost up to the altitude that we're at now, but I mean, I don't know what caused the vessel to tip over like that. There shouldn't have been anything to cause that to happen, but hey, manual control takes over, and we might not make it out the atmosphere now. We will have to wait and see, I guess. We'll leave our engine burning on low here. We're yet to get through 2/3 of our fuel. There we go. Moving on to the last fuel tank now, and that fuel is going to slowly deplete as we gain speed and hopefully make it into space. Let's time warp. Let's do the time warp again, and fingers crossed it's going to be all good here. I think we should be able to do it still anyway, even after that little catastrophe there. Let's find out. We're about to run out of fuel, and we're going at 700 meters per second. Oh man, it's looking a little tight. We're not at 40,000 meters yet. We've still got 30,000 meters to go. Oh man, I think we might fall a little short. Let's see. Obviously, we're slowing down, well, at a slower rate the higher we go. We're going to hit 60,000 about now. We've still got 300 meters per second to lose. Can we do it? Oh, it's going to be so close. It's going to be so very close, but unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be enough. We are going to fall short at 65,500 meters here as we start our descent back down. Man, 5,000 meters off. Perhaps if we didn't have that malfunction at the start, things would have gone a little more smoothly. So anyway, let's land this back down, and I guess we'll give it another go. We'll salvage some of the parts, and hopefully we'll be able to do it next time around. In we come, steady does it, and we're going to touch down, hopefully without losing another fuel tank. We don't actually have any landing legs, unfortunately, but it looks like we're on a little bit of a flatter ground here. We're still going to topple. We're still going to topple. Oh no! Well, that wouldn't be the first time that's happened. Anyway, let's recover our vessel here, and we will try that again, this time with hopefully a better start there. Let's just quickly go into the VAB here and check what's up. I mean, we shouldn't have had that tilt to the left, and I'm really unsure exactly what happened there. But on the bright side, we did complete our contract for the there we go, for the decoupler, the radial decoupler. So in fact, I don't think we're even going to have that part available to use anymore, which is a little bit of a shame. But that's not the end of the world. Unfortunately, we won't be able to launch this vessel again now because we don't have access to those radial decouplers. So off they go. I guess we're taking one step forward and two steps back at the moment. I'm not too concerned though. I think we're going to be fine. Now, we have got another thing to add to the vessel here, the mystery goo containment unit. Now this is going to give us some more science, and we're going to attach that to the vessel here so that next time we launch off with the NovaStar 6, the new and improved NovaStar, we will be able to get ourselves a little extra science on the way up as well. Now, we need to get some more Delta V in this vessel, and there's two ways we could do that. We could add more fuel, or we could add a stacked decoupler and a larger bit at the bottom, but I think the best way for us to do this is probably to let's see, keep this engine, add a little more fuel, or perhaps just stick a solid rocket booster on the bottom and detach that once we get up. Who knows? As we don't have those radial decouplers, we're a little bit screwed with that. So let's actually see if we have enough science here to unlock the radial decouplers. If I remember correctly, they only cost 18 science, and they are in stability. There they are. So we may as well just unlock them anyway. And before we go back into the VAB, we've also got another contract that we can do. So let's grab ourselves another one here and see what might be a good one to do. Ignoring the visual surveys, test the LV flight engine in flight. No, we don't want to do that. Can we do any of these? The parachute might be a good one. On the way back down, we could certainly try that. We've got the Mark 16 parachute already attached to the vessel, so the chances are we'll be able to pull that one off on the way back down anyway. Now we've got our stacked decouplers back, which is our radial decouplers, sorry, back. We'll attach a couple of these to the side, and we'll use some of the lovely KW Rocketry solid rocket boosters here, SRBs. These have a thrust of 149, so not quite the amount that these RT-10s do, but they look so elegant, they look so sleek. We'll stick these on the side here, and they will be our SRBs. Just, we don't need a huge boost to get out to the atmosphere, or out of the atmosphere even. So let's save this, and we'll launch and make our way up into space. Now before we go, let's use our mystery goop and see what that's all about. We'll examine it on the ground at the launch pad, and it says the goo doesn't seem to be doing much right now. Well, no, it certainly does not. It's just at ground level. I bet you any money though that it will certainly be doing something once we lift off. Now, we're not going to be able to do all of the goo experiments at once here. We will have to do them each time we launch a new vessel. So we get one at the ground level, at low altitude, at high altitude, in outer space, and all of that stuff. But what we'll do is we'll save this one until we get out of the atmosphere. So anyway, let's launch off, and we are go. And quickly de-throttling our main engine here as these SRBs bring us up and increase our speed much higher than what we would normally have with a liquid engine. These things are useful for getting us out above a certain altitude and giving us a nice, well, boost, as the name would imply with the solid rocket boosters. So we're about to eject them off, and we power up slightly here so we don't lose too much velocity as they eject, obviously losing a lot of thrust there as the solid rocket boosters are lost. And up we go. We are now at 5,000, almost 6,000 meters, traveling at 170 meters per second, and we've used hardly any of our liquid fuel to get there. Of course, we do have a little bit more weight on this vessel thanks to the mystery goo that's now accompanying us up to these heights, but I think we should be able to comfortably make it up to the altitude mark, which is 70,000 meters. And you know what? With that, it is time for today's Space Fact with Zach is about the edge of space. Whilst for our Kerbals, the edge of space is 70 kilometers above sea level, on planet Earth, the official edge of space is at 100 kilometers above sea level. This is called the Kármán line. Whilst this is where we say that space starts, Earth's final atmospheric layer, the exosphere, actually stretches up to 10,000 kilometers away from the planet. In Kerbal Space Program, the Kármán line still exists, only this is actually the line where our Kerbals turn from Kermans into Kármáns. So we are continuing to head up, slowly but surely gaining speed, of course, and hopefully those SRBs took us high enough that we will be able to get ourselves to the edge of the atmosphere. We've still got a decent amount of fuel left. We're just touching our third tank now, and I'm hopeful. I am hopeful. Let's put it that way. So let's speed things up slightly here because we don't have all day. We are tight for time. Time is money in the Kerbal Space Center, and yes, this does look a lot more promising, doesn't it? We're nearly at 50,000 meters. Our rocket engine about to finish up, but 850 meters per second to lose. We're nearly at the edge of the atmosphere already, and we should just about cruise over that 70,000 meter mark. Indeed we will. And if we go to the map view, the planet view, I guess, we can see that our apoapsis is actually 97,000 meters. For the first time in the history of NovaStar International, we've made it out of the clutches of the atmosphere into what is true outer space, and Jebediah here has lost his mind as we soar up towards the stars with the moon there in the distance. So anyway, while we're up here, we'll do ourselves a mystery goo observation. This should bring us a whole bunch of sights, 10 in fact. The goo seems to have clumped into a sphere. It also appears to have become brittle. Well, I'm sure we'll find out much more about this mystery goo as we take it on a round trip of the universe eventually. So we'll keep that data there, and we'll now do a crew report as well. Are we there yet? Well, I don't know where we're aiming for, but it's worth 5 science apparently, getting ourselves into a suborbital trajectory here. We'll work our way up to the apoapsis, and then we'll be on our way back down and preparing for re-entry. Jebediah is still just losing it. He is not with it in the slightest, but that doesn't really matter too much, I guess. So on the way down we go. We are going to burn up very soon. I think I'll deploy the parachutes early and let them come out as soon as possible, and we'll work our way down there. You can see, in fact, the debris there, the NovaStar 5 debris on the floor. This is the debris from the previous vessel that obviously broke off, and we're going to be landing pretty close to that. That's coming down pretty quickly here. So the parachute's going to lower our speed, lower our velocity quite rapidly as we break through the clouds. They'll slowly, well, eventually deploy, and we're going to land down in the grasslands once again. But we're going to get a whole heap of science for this. First of all, we did escape the atmosphere contract, and you know what? I'm a fool because I totally forgot about our contract for the parachutes there. I should have deployed that earlier on, but oh well. We did our main contract. That's the important one, reaching space and escaping the atmosphere. So the parachute's about to deploy here, and once again we still have a fatal flaw in our vessel, and oh man, I am actually quite worried right now. If the ground we land on is not completely flat, we may topple over again. And you know what happens when we topple over? We seem to have a habit of losing this fuel tank here. And what's connected to that fuel tank? It's the mystery goo. We may lose the mystery goo here. This is where attaching an antenna to your vehicle and sending the science back to KSP is a good idea. Let's just hope the ground is flat enough that we don't fall over. It looks fairly flat, but I am still concerned we're going to topple to the left here as we land. Please, 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 no! Recover vessel, yes! Perhaps a little bit cheaty, but whatever. We'll pretend that never happened. There we go. 26 science earned from that mission, and we got a vessel, recovery of a vessel from a suborbital flight worth 8 science. We got a couple of mystery goo observations, a crew report, and of course we got that boost in science for actually escaping the atmosphere as well. Parts returned. Not too bad. We got our crew back, thankfully, but we still need to remember to really switch out our crew members here for the best possible astronaut training that we can give them. So let's hop into our R&D department. 63 science here to spend, and that is going to allow us to unlock one of these nodes, just one. And you know, it's such a difficult decision, you know, when you've got such few resources here available and you just don't know what to go for. Advanced rocketry could be very useful. It's certainly going to be able to allow us to start orbiting the planet. General construction, again, could be useful. Not as such, though, as much. Flight control gives us access to those fairings from KW Rocketry, a little bit of MechJeb there, the antenna, the reflectron, which will allow us to send probes out. But I think science tech is probably going to be the way to go here, first of all. Mostly because we get the Science Junior, which allows us to do more science. And, you know, unlocking more science at this point will allow us to easily or more easily unlock later nodes. So we will do science tech in this situation, I think. We get access to the science lab as well. And this is going to be very difficult to get into space at this point. But this is part of the Station Science mod, which allows us to do real science on the space station that we will eventually be building. So we'll unlock that, and well, that's going to have to be it for now with that respect. So we've got ourselves a bunch of new parts. Most of them are not going to be too useful to us, but we need to make ourselves a science collection vessel, I guess. I mean, we are going to be able to use the Science Junior here to get a whole heap of more science, basically. So I want to attach that straight underneath the cockpit here. And now our vessel is even higher and even taller still, so once we land down we are going to be in trouble unless we start ejecting some of these fuel tanks off. And obviously the downside to that is that we will lose the fuel tanks. We won't get any funds back from ejecting them. But on the plus side, we're not going to topple over and lose all of our science data when we return back to Kerbin, when we land back down. So I believe that that is the right thing to do, and well, don't let anybody tell you otherwise. So anyway, we've attached the mystery goo to this science thing, and this is basically going to be our science unit right here, our Science Junior and our 2 mystery goo observations. We will access or unlock more science later on, but for now that's going to have to be it on that front. We are now going to, of course, going to have to consider kitting out our vessel a little more, with perhaps a little bit more in terms of thrust, maybe a 3rd SRB to get ourselves up even higher still. But to be honest with you, we're not going to have an easy time orbiting Kerbin at the moment unless we go nuts with the fuel and all the SRBs and that. So before we modify our vessel any further, let's save up here and let's come out to mission control to see if there's any contracts that look doable. Obviously, we've got a huge boost to our prestige here. Perhaps we will get access to more stuff. And indeed we will. Let's see what's going to be the most valuable to us. To me, the most valuable contracts are going to be the ones that give us the most science right now. And that lies in the Rocamax Mark 55 radial mount liquid engine or the radial decoupler on a suborbital trajectory. I think we could do both of those. The problem is we've already got an active one here, which is the parachute, and I really don't want to have to fail that and cancel it. So let's try and do the parachute at Mark 15 on the way up. And on the way down, let's do our radial mount engine test, which is going to make our vessel look very strange, but it is going to give us a whole heap of science. So this is going to be interesting. Basically, what we're going to have to do is, because this wants us to test the engine when we're splashed down, we're going to have to land in Kerbin's water. And to do that, to activate this engine, we will want to put ourselves a fuel tank on here. Where is it? There we go. We'll put ourselves a fuel tank on. In fact, you know what? I don't know if we can actually attach the engine to something without a fuel tank. Because if we could just attach a couple of engines onto the Science Junior, then we can still activate them, but they won't have any fuel, which is, well, it's a bit pointless, but it will fulfill the contract, I assume. We'll try it out, and if it doesn't work, well, it doesn't work, and we'll have to try again next time. Now, they are pretty hefty, they're pretty big, and, well, that's all well and good, but hey, we've got TweakScale on, so let's just scale them down a little bit. Just make these thrusters tiny. We only have to test them, it doesn't say how, so I guess maybe cheating a little bit. I don't know if you'd class that as cheating. TweakScale is on for a reason. We can make these things really teeny tiny if we want to. And that way they'll weigh less and won't be so much a burden to take up to 21,000 meters, which is our goal here. So I think that is going to be it for this vessel, NovaStar 7, I believe this is 7. We just need to sort out our staging sequence, and then we can go and launch off here. It's a little bit of a weird one, but this is really just for testing purposes. So let's add that. We need to do our stage separation once we get up to height. And then we want to put our 2 new engines in, well, they're going to want to go right up at the top, aren't they? This is going to be a little weird. They want to go up at the top. So this is the staging sequence then. We'll fire all of our engines to start with. We'll decouple the solid rocket boosters on the side. We'll decouple the main engine once that has basically burned out. We'll be able to take our science modules up, then we'll fire our parachutes once we meet this criteria on the right side, and after that we will fire our engines once we splash down. In fact, you know what? Our parachutes are going to have to come down here. This is so backwards, but it should work. That one wants to go there. That one wants to go there. Mark 16 is the one on the top, I believe. Yes, it is. Okay, so a really weird staging sequence, but we'll see what we can do here. Hopefully, we'll be able to fulfill both contracts. We will want to move to the right, though, as we launch here. We're going to want to land in the water so that we get a splashdown. So the first one I want to focus on is the test the Mark 16 parachute in flight over Kerbin. We're going to be able to pull that off, but let's just start tilting to the right immediately here and pull ourselves over. We'll throttle down slightly as well and let these SRBs burn out. Now, we will want a decent amount of speed on us once we reach 21,000 feet, but still, we can conserve fuel for the time being. Let's drop the SRBs off, and they are going to go flying. Fortunately, they didn't hit the vessel. That's all good. And now, of course, we'll throttle up slightly as we've lost a bunch of speed because I wasn't paying attention. So off we go. Once we reach 21,000 meters and we're going 320 meters per second, I will fire the Mark 16 chute on the top. It should not deploy because we should be at a higher minimum, well, we will have a too low atmospheric pressure effectively, so we should be able to do that and deploy that once we get up to speed. I'm not going to be going too much faster than 320 meters per second here though, because we are going to want to drop this section of the fuel tanks once we basically fulfill this objective. So we're gaining speed. We're nearly at 320 meters a second now, so I'm going to throttle right the way back as we climb up, because we don't want to be going too fast. If we go too fast, we will also overshoot, in fact, and we'll be going well, if we go faster than 420 meters per second, we're going to have troubles. So anyway, we are tilting ourselves towards the water. That's all well and good. We are going 320, and we are ready to fire the parachute. That's the next one in the staging sequence. Fire it. Oh, and it shot off. Ah, okay. I wasn't expecting that. I didn't think the parachute would actually deploy. The more you know, that's now acting as a bit of a bit of drag. Hey, anyway, let's separate the fuel tanks as we slow down here, and we'll activate the materials bay, even, from the upper atmosphere. And we'll also activate the observe mystery goo thing, and get that from the upper atmosphere as well. The goo seems to be getting cold in the upper atmosphere. Well, that's all good. That's great. We are now going to be losing speed pretty rapidly, and our parachute fortunately not breaking off, so we completed that one, and for that we get 136 prestige. More prestige, I might add, for testing a parachute than getting out of Kerbin's atmosphere. That is quite impressive. I don't know who gives the prestige for these missions, but something seems a little bit wrong with that. So there's our fuel tank, slowly, well, making its way down to the water, rather quickly, in fact. And we have one more experiment to do up here, which is the second mystery goo canister, once we make it into the lower atmosphere. So I'm going to fire our second set of chutes now. They will deploy once we get to the right altitude. There they go. And we'll take off SAS as well for good measure. And we are going to splash down pretty slowly, which is a good thing. We don't want to be going too fast when we splash down. But we're into the lower atmosphere now. We'll observe the mystery goo once again, and we'll get another reading from that. The goo jiggles and wobbles as the craft flies, as the craft itself wibbles and jiggles and wobbles and does all of that other stuff. So that's another 7 science. So far we have gained a ton of science from this expedition, and we are coming down pretty slowly, in fact, in comparison to what speed we normally come down at. We're going to splash down, and once we've splashed down, we're going to be able to test our radial mount liquid engines, which actually have no fuel attached to them. But although they don't have any fuel, they should still be activated. There's the parachutes deploying, and we're coming down at 5 meters per second. So we should splash down without any explosions, without any nasty surprises. And our altitude, slowly but surely coming down to sea level, and we're about to splash down any second now. There we go. Good stuff. So we are literally 15 meters above the water surface, and down we go. Nothing exploding, and we tip onto our side, which is fine. And we are now splashed down. We are at Kerbin, and we can test our radial engines. Or can we? Oh no, we can't. Oh, there we go, we can. Awesome stuff. Of course, there is no fuel to feed them, but we tested them, so that theory did work. It did work. That's awesome. And we get 17 science from that as well, which is great. I mean, not a great amount of prestige, not a lot of money, but the science is what really matters right now. So let's recover our vessel and see that entire mission. 17 science from, of course, the contract that we completed, and a total of 38 science from the Science Junior, which was the materials study, and the 2 mystery goo observation at both low and high altitude. Awesome stuff, and still I'm forgetting to switch Jebediah out, but hey, whatever. 650 reputation, we're doing really well, in fact, and we're going to start unlocking a whole bunch of new contracts soon. Before we go, though, before we end this episode, we'll hop back into the R&D department. Unfortunately, we don't have anywhere near enough science to unlock these things over here, but we'll get to that in good time. Now we just have to decide which one to unlock next. Do we go for flight control? Do we go for advanced rocketry or general construction? And to be honest with you, I really feel like advanced rocketry is the way to go. Although flight control does look tempting for the SAS module, the small inline reaction wheel here. But there's not a whole lot that we can get from this. I mean, we don't particularly need to launch probes just yet. I'd say we go with advanced rocketry and attempt to actually orbit Kerbin. So hopefully that's going to be coming up in the next episode. We've got a couple of extra rocket parts here, and we'll attempt to orbit this wonderful blue and green planet in the next episode of NovaStar International. So thank you all for watching. It's much appreciated, and I'll see you guys next time.